The annual South Africa Feather Awards will this November host the 13th installment in recognition of LGBTQI+ community and its allies. Now this year the awards run under the banner Queer Lives Matter amid the increase in hate crimes and discrimination against members of the community. To talk more about Pride Month and the Feather Awards and what this means to the community, we are joined by nominees Yaya, Mavundla and Tumi Powerhouse. A very good morning to the both of you. So good to have you on the show this morning. Let's start with you, Tumi. Congratulations, first of all, to the both of you for being nominated. Tumi, 13 years in, these awards could not be more important than they are in this present day.
Definitely. Good morning to everyone. Wow, it's such a busy queer weekend in Johannesburg. You can imagine what time I slept last night in proceeding on the celebrations of Pride Month. But yeah, it's such a big honor to be nominated for the 13th Feather Awards, and they just turned 13, so they're pretty much a teen, and quite an incredible time as well, where we're having great conversations as queer people, and there's also like a larger audience for the conversations.
Absolutely, and that larger audience, is an audience that also really does matter and should become part of this conversation. You are a Personality of the Year nominee. You're in the public eye, essentially, and that means that so many people will be looking at you. How important is that recognition as well as a person from the LGBTQI+ community?
Good morning, everybody. First and foremost, I received that I get that nomination next year, but this year, actually, it's my show that is nominated for Media of the Year. But I think, becoming nominated for such an award, for me and the team, I was just speaking to the director last night, and saying, this is such a very important, award, not just for us, but for the people at home, for the people on the ground, for the people that also worked on the show, because then, it then creates further more of a conversation of why should these stories be told.
Absolutely, and it's very important that these stories are told to me. I mean, there are a lot of people, youngsters, who might be, in a precarious situation at the moment, not too sure how to accept or how to go about essentially being who they are, being themselves. Awards like this is very important to get that message across, that it's okay, and it's actually more than okay to be who you are.
Definitely, definitely. And I think for me, nominated for Social Media Personality of the Year, it's even more important because we live in an age of social media, and everything and everyone is always on their phones. And for me to become, a person people can look up to, it's such an incredible thing, but it's also such a heavy cross to carry as well. But yeah, I guess somebody has to carry the cross and run with it, so that the next person or the next Tumi Powerhouse does not have to go through what I personally went through,
Yeah, and that cross is still being carried. I mean, the fact that the theme for this year is Queer Lives Matter, it just says it all, Yaya.
Absolutely. I remember I was speaking to Tumi like a month ago when a lot of killings were happening around South Africa of the LGBTI community, and we had nothing being said by the government, primarily the president. And for me then, it was so confusing. Why do we have community safety in South Africa? Monday we are voting, and for me, I kept reflecting on what has really, the government done to assist us, the LGBTI people, that we are safe. Because, when we say Queer Lives Matter, we're not just saying it because we just want to have a voice or we just want to have a conversation. It started somewhere, we wouldn't have had that hashtag if, we didn't have those killings, and we didn't have homophobes going around. Recently, there was a huge story of two personalities that I wouldn't want to mention on this platform right now, which, brought a lot of hate around a trans community and but also an LGBTI community altogether. And it really took us back to understand exactly how do people feel about the LGBTI community. But, I always come back and say, love is better than hate. This is why we should go back and engage with these people and say, you know what, they can do better, they can change. So I hope with this year's Feather Awards at the main event, that message is really like sent across correctly to say, homophobes can do better, we do matter. There is a reason why that hashtag, exists.
Absolutely. I mean, Tumi, Yaya is mentioning the fact that government hasn't really come to the party when it comes to the LGBTQI community. And, taking this to a political stance, are you... Of course you'll be voting, well, let me not say of course you'll be voting, perhaps you might be voting, but has any of the parties spoken to the community in terms of what their manifestos are? Do you feel like South African politics are at all aligned to the LGBTQI plus community?
I mean, for one, our bill of safety has not been signed yet, and we're about to vote in the next few hours. So for me, it definitely means we as the queer community can have the conversations. However, and the general community as well can have conversations. However, the people who are supposed to be, first of all, protecting us, and secondly, being for us, and ensuring that the queer community is protected, are the people that are actually quiet. And it's quite alarming. And it's also quite thought-evoking as well to say, then who do you go to? Where do you go on the polls on Monday as well? So it's just, definitely something to ponder on and a conversation to also still be had within the communities. For instance, if me and Yaya after this call get on the call, it's still like a conversation to be had. I just think more than anything, in as much as it is a conversation, we need to get to a point where it has to be action. And at the present moment, currently, no, there's no action around it.
How do we get the community, the rest of the community, especially those who are homophobic, how do we get them into these conversations and how do we open their eyes or remove the veil from their eyes?
You know what? For me, I always say these things start at home. The mere fact that when you grow up as a child, it's kids around you that tells you most of the time. I'm not going to say everybody, most of the time, because I think that's what I went through, and Tumi would attest to this and many other people that I know. That, it's kids around you at school that would say you are gay, you are different, and many other things. So if this conversation were really to begin at home and and start talking to our parents, because it's our parents that work at school as teachers. It's our parents that work at school, at the police station as police officers. It's our parents that sit on in parliament and many other spaces and at clinics. So if we could actually first have those conversations with them, and then they take the conversation back at home to their kids, I think we could actually head somewhere. But I think, also what I want to emphasize is that going back to the previous question that you had asked about Queer Lives Matter also, for me, it's not even just about protection. We need to also have a conversation on how do we support queer people in terms of their businesses, because then also speaks on Queer Lives Matter. How do you support on queer people in spaces of what they want to do in empowerment, in education, because I mean there are queer kids here who can't go to school because they are bullied every day, by homophobes, teachers that are homophobes, and many other things. So there are a lot of conversations that need to happen. But I think first also we need government to come on board. Government to come on board in a space of education. When we speak of education in South Africa, we need to have education that is inclusive of LGBTI community.
I mean, that education is vitally important, because currently it's not really education that is being sought, at least by the government. It's more awareness. But that doesn't really educate, the community, to me.
Yeah, definitely. But For me, it's also a thing of everyone wants the queer conversation to be a teachable moment. And I'm attesting to what Yaya is saying, that it should start at home. It should start with kids, because actually where as you grow up, you experience the most phobia, either homophobia, and as you grow up, you start realizing it's actually transphobia or biphobia, whatever the case is. But however, I just also believe that everything about the queer community should not be a teachable moment. And a lot of people believe the queer community owes them a teaching moment for them to learn about the community, and we don't owe them that. What they do owe us, though, is respect for who we are, and respect for just generally as human beings, because it's not anyone's constitutional right to tell you who they are, but it's also just your responsibility as a human being to respect who they are. And also, not everything or not every queer conversation should be a teachable moment.
Just in closing, the Pride Month comes to an end today. In South Africa, how is Pride Month, according to your experiences, received and perceived?
I think, you know what, most of the people still think it's just like a huge party. We go out there just to party and have fun. And I like the fact that Tumi, spoke about respect, because this is one of the things that I've always preached, to say as a queer community or LGBT community, we deserve respect. Because if there's respect, then which means so much more could follow easily. I just wish people knew and first understood why do we have pride, because if then they understood why do we have pride and why pride exists, they would see us differently. They would see pride differently. I recently just launched 31 years of pride catalog with Con Hill, which every day we've been publishing letters from the LGBTI community, and one of the letters also came from Tumi. And for me, it's a reflection of exactly how people are feeling, where we are as the LGBTI community. And I'm so glad that I did this, because it means then the government can't come back and say, we don't know what you guys are going through, because it's published exactly in their platform. And we can't go back when we're asking for help during Pride Month. They think we just want to have a party. No, we're not just having a party. We're having these conversations, but in a way where everybody at least can listen, because then everybody knows that it's Pride Month. Then we're able to have those conversations.
Thank you so much to the both of you for coming onto the show. That's Yaya, Mavundla and Tumi, Powerhouse, taking us through everything around Pride Month, the 13th Annual Feather Awards as well, which take place on the 11th of November at the Market Theatre in Johannesburg.